On a rainy evening at the White House, President Trump hears his son Barron crying behind a closed door. Sitting beside him, Trump listens as Barron shares the burden of living in his father's shadow, a raw confession that catches Trump off guard and unveils a hidden truth. As evening settles over the White House, a profound stillness takes hold, the kind that emerges when the day's battles have faded into the background. Secret Service agents glide through the corridors like silent specters. Rain taps gently against the historic windows, a soft reminder from nature that even the halls of power remain subject to life's simple forces. President Donald Trump loosens his tie, walking alone toward the residence wing. Melania is away in New York for a charity event. It's a rare night of solitude, one he hadn't realized he needed until now. His phone buzzes in his pocket. This time, he ignores it. Passing a portrait of Lincoln, he feels the gaze of eyes that seem to watch with both judgment and empathy. Then he hears it. A sound so faint it might have been his imagination. A stifled sob. Trump freezes mid-step, straining to listen. There it is again. The unmistakable sound of someone desperately trying to stay unheard, breaking apart in the process. It's coming from Barron's room. The president glances at his watch. 9:37 p.m. Too late for campaign calls, too early for his son to be asleep. He approaches the slightly ajar door, golden light spilling into the hallway. For a moment, he hesitates. This isn't a contract negotiation or a business deal. It's something he has far less experience with. "Barron," he calls softly. Silence follows. "Yes." The voice sounds hollow. Too carefully composed. Trump pushes the door open. Barron sits on the edge of his bed, shoulders hunched as if guarding a fortress, one hand quickly brushing across his face. The room is meticulously arranged. Books on the shelves are aligned by height with precision. Even the pens on the desk are laid out in perfect parallels. Order in a world spiraling out of control. "Are you okay?" Trump asks, stepping inside and closing the door. "I'm fine," Barron replies, still not looking up. Trump pauses. Boardroom strategies, media prep, the art of deal-making, none of it has prepared him for the sight of his son's red-rimmed eyes. He crosses the room and sits on the opposite side of the bed, leaving space between them, not out of coldness, but because he senses his son needs room to breathe. "You don't look okay," Trump says, his voice gentler than most have ever heard. Barron exhales sharply. "It's nothing. Stupid stuff. Try me." The boy, young man, really, finally lifts his eyes. Something in Trump's chest tightens at the vulnerability he sees. "It's everything," Barron says at last. "The cameras following me. The online comments. People hating me without even knowing me. Classmates who either avoid me or only want to be around because of who you are." He swallows hard. "And sometimes I wonder if anyone will ever see me. Or if I'll always just be your shadow." Trump feels something shift inside him. Not guilt, exactly, but a recognition. A truth he's been too busy to acknowledge. "I didn't know it was like that for you," he admits. "You wouldn't," Barron says, without malice. "You're always at the center of everything. The light. And I'm just, what's behind it." Trump leans back, struck by the metaphor. He thinks of his own father. Stern, demanding, never satisfied. He remembers chasing approval that never came, building towers that reached the sky, partly to escape the shadow of expectations. "I made a mistake," Trump says quietly. "I thought protecting you meant teaching you to be untouchable. Bulletproof. Like me." He moves to sit closer to his son. The mattress dips under their combined weight. "But that's not what you needed, is it?" Barron shakes his head. "I just needed to be seen. Known. Not as the president's son. Just as, me." The words land with unexpected weight. Trump places a hand on his son's shoulder. Not a campaign stage gesture for the cameras, but something real. I want to do better, he says simply. Tell me how. For the first time that evening, Baron's posture softens slightly. He doesn't answer right away, but he doesn't pull away either. They sit together in silence, not the awkward kind that begs to be filled, but a healing one, where something important has finally been acknowledged. Outside, the rain begins to ease, as if nature itself recognizes the turning point. Morning arrives with the White House's usual rhythm. Staff move efficiently through the halls, phones ring, the machinery of government hums. But in the private residence, something has changed. Donald Trump slept poorly. Barron's tear-streaked face haunted him through the night, not because it unsettled him, but because it revealed the cost of his ambitious blindness to both of them. He dresses casually, skipping his usual tie, and heads to the family dining room, where Barron sits hunched over a bowl of oatmeal, scrolling on his phone. "Good morning," Trump greets, settling into the chair across from him. "Morning," Barron replies, not looking up. Trump pours himself coffee, letting the silence settle comfortably between them. "What you said last night," he begins finally, "about being in my shadow." Barron's shoulders tense. "It's fine. I shouldn't have said anything." "No, it's not fine," Trump interrupts gently. "That's the point. I've spent decades making sure everyone sees me. Here I am. Remember me. But I never stop to think about what that spotlight does to the people standing next to it." Barron looks up, surprised by the candor. "You said you don't know who you're supposed to be," Trump continues. "I want to help you with that, not by telling you who to be, but by asking, maybe for the first time." He leans forward, elbows on the table, a posture he'd never allow in diplomatic meetings. "What matters to you, Barron? Not what looks good for the family brand. Not what makes headlines. What makes you feel alive?" The question clearly catches his son off guard. Barron sets his phone down. "I like writing," he admits cautiously. "And designing. Maybe architecture." But he hesitates. "But what? But I don't know if it'll ever matter. If I'll ever be taken seriously as anything other than your son." Trump nods slowly, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "I felt the same once. When I took over from my father, critics said I'd just repeat his mistakes. That I hadn't built anything on my own." "What did you do?" Barron asks. "I built louder than anyone thought possible." A familiar intensity flashes in Trump's eyes before softening into something more introspective. "But it took me decades to realize something important." He cradles his coffee mug between his palms. "I wasn't just building to prove them wrong. I was building because I didn't know how to be still. Because I was afraid silence meant invisibility." The vulnerability in his father's voice makes Barron look up. "And now?" he asks. Trump gives a small shrug. "Now I think maybe the truth lives in the quiet places, but we've been too busy to notice." Later that morning, they walk together across the south lawn, dew still clinging to the grass. Secret Service agents keep a respectful distance. No cameras flash. No reporters shout questions. Just a father and son under a clear blue sky. "Your grandfather, my father, was nothing like me," Trump says as they reach a bench near the rose garden. "Quiet, disciplined, never showy." Barron looks at him with interest. "No matter what anyone ever told me about him being proud," Trump continues, "I spent my life chasing that recognition, building things so big they couldn't be ignored." He turns to face his son. "I don't want you to spend your life chasing ghosts like I did. You don't have to be me. You don't have to be anyone but you. But you have to believe you're worth knowing, not for what you'll inherit, but for who you already are." They sit for a moment in companionable silence, watching a pair of cardinals flit between branches. "Can I ask you something?" Barron says finally. "Anything. Did you ever regret how you raised us?" "Me?" Trump doesn't rush to answer. Instead, he looks out over the grounds, considering. Yes, he says at last. I wish I'd slowed down. Made space for more moments like this. I thought success was the greatest gift I could give you. But maybe it would have been better to just be there. Barron nods, absorbing the rare admission. I want to try now, Trump adds. If it's not too late. A small smile lifts the corner of Barron's mouth. Better late than never, right? That evening, Trump cancels a fundraising dinner without explanation. Instead, he has the kitchen prepare steaks and brings them to Barron's study, where his son is sketching in a notebook. They eat informally, sharing stories they've never told each other before. Trump recounts his first failed business, the night he nearly gave up, the moment he first held Barron in the hospital and whispered, "Please don't let me mess this up." In return, Barron shyly shows him a poem he's been working on, about legacy, expectations, and finding light in unexpected places. Trump doesn't critique or suggest improvements. He simply says, "That's beautiful, son. You have a gift." And Barron smiles, openly, genuinely, perhaps for the first time in years. The following week brings the usual chaos, contentious press briefings, international tensions, partisan battles dominating headlines. Trump navigates it all with his characteristic strength. But something has shifted beneath the surface. In the evenings, when official duties fade and the residence quiets, he begins to do something once unthinkable. He listens. Their conversations become a ritual, sometimes brief, sometimes stretching late into the night, sometimes over food, sometimes just sitting together in comfortable silence. With each talk, Trump discovers things about his son, and himself, that he never allowed himself to see. One evening, Barron appears at the door of his father's study, clutching a leather-bound notebook. "I've been working on something," he says. "Want to hear it?" Trump sets aside the briefing papers he's reviewing. "I'd love to." Barron sits across from him and opens the notebook, revealing pages filled with elegant handwriting. He clears his throat and begins to read. Behind every flame, a shadow waits. It flickers in silence while the light takes all the glory. It doesn't ask to be seen, but it holds the fire's shape. Neither can exist without the other. But only one demands our attention. He looks up, uncertainty in his eyes. For a moment, Trump is silent, genuinely moved. "That's incredible," he says finally. "You wrote that?" Barron nods. "It's about what it feels like. Growing up with someone like you. I never wanted you to feel like a shadow," Trump says quietly. "I know, but it's not about blame," Barron replies. "Just the truth. I don't want to be the flame. I just want to be seen beside it." Trump stands and moves to his son's side, resting a hand on his shoulder. "You're seen now," he says softly. "Maybe not by the world yet, but by me." He gestures to the chair across from his desk. "Sit. I want to tell you something I've never told anyone." Barron settles into the chair, waiting. "When I was about your age," Trump begins, "I wasn't afraid of failure or rejection. I was afraid of being invisible. I fought so hard to be noticed that I didn't see what I was trampling in the process. It made me strong, but it also made me blind. I think I inherited some of that fear," Barron admits, "but maybe I can live it differently." Trump smiles. "I think you already are." The next day, against protocol and to the visible surprise of his staff, Trump brings Barron to the Oval Office, not for a photo op, but to observe. They sit side by side during briefings. Barron watches intently, occasionally jotting notes in his journal. After the room clears, Trump turns to him. "What did you think?" Barron considers his response carefully. "I think you carry more weight than people realize. The pressure would crush most people." He pauses. "But I also think a lot of it is performance." "Performance," Trump echoes, raising an eyebrow. "Go on. You spend all day proving you can't be broken, that you're in complete control. But at night, when it's just us," Barron hesitates. I see who you really are. And which version do you prefer? Trump asks. Barron smiles. The one that listens. That evening, Trump speaks with Melania on the phone, his voice low and thoughtful. He's not a kid anymore, he says. And I was so focused on my burden that I didn't even notice he was carrying his own. Melania's voice is gentle. You always wanted to protect him. But now you can guide him, not by leading from the front, but by walking beside him. Hanging up, Trump stands at the bedroom window, gazing at the Washington Monument lit against the night sky. He thinks of Barron's poem, The Shadow Behind the Flame, and realizes he's spent decades creating a light that blinded him to what mattered most, including the young man quietly emerging from its glow. His son. And the remarkable person he's becoming. That weekend, Trump does something unprecedented. He clears his schedule entirely, no calls, no meetings, no speeches. Just one day, fully dedicated to Barron. They walk the National Mall incognito, visiting museums Barron has always wanted to explore, talking about art, history, and where meaning lives, not in headlines or towers, but in brushstrokes and margins. Trump listens more than he speaks. And the more he listens, the more he discovers the astonishing depth his son possesses. Barron isn't just thoughtful. He's insightful. Compassionate. A young man who truly sees people, a rare quality, Trump realizes, especially in the circles he moves in. In the car back to the White House, Trump turns to his son. You know what I realized, he asks. What? You're not a shadow. Barron looks at him questioningly. You're the next flame. A different kind. Steadier. Warmer. But just as needed by the world. Barron doesn't respond immediately, but his smile, open, genuine, unburdened, says everything. And Trump, perhaps for the first time in decades, feels he's offered something that will outlast the moment. Something that might truly illuminate, not just dazzle. Monday arrives with its usual intensity, urgent briefings, diplomatic crises, media storms demanding attention. But before diving into the day's machinery, Trump stops by Barron's study. The door is open. Inside, his son sits at his desk in a hoodie, hair tousled from sleep, engrossed in a book of essays. He looks up as his father knocks. Breakfast? Trump offers. Barron blinks, surprised. Don't you have a security briefing? I pushed it back an hour. Barron's face breaks into a smile. Then yeah, I'd love to. They walk to the family dining room together, where a simple meal of scrambled eggs, toast, and fresh fruit awaits. No staff, no cameras, no documentation. Just a father and son starting the day together. After a few comfortable minutes, Trump sets down his fork. I want to ask you something. You've spent your life watching me. What do you think I've missed along the way? Barron studies him carefully. You sure you want me to answer? Positive. I think, Barron begins cautiously, you've spent so long proving you're right that you forgot what it's like to be questioned by someone who actually loves you. Not attacking you, not undermining you, just asking because they want to understand. Trump leans back, absorbing the insight. You're the strongest person I know, Barron continues. But sometimes strength turns into armor. And armor doesn't let anyone in. Even the ones who aren't trying to hurt you. Trump nods slowly. That's fair. It's not criticism, Barron adds. Just a reflection, like looking in a mirror. Trump's expression softens. You're my mirror now. Barron smiles. Maybe. Just an honest one. Later that day, Trump makes an unexpected decision. He invites Barron to a small, unused studio in the White House, once a reading room. He'd had the staff clear it out the day before. Now it stands empty, bare walls, hardwood floors, waiting. Trump hands his son a professional charcoal drawing set. I got this for you. Barron looks at the supplies, confused. Why? Because I think you have something to say. And you shouldn't have to wait for the world to give you permission to say it. Baron stares at his father, the realization slowly sinking in. You want me to draw? I want you to create something that's entirely yours. Not mine. Not anyone else's. The space between them fills with a new kind of silence, not awkward, but profound. Then Baron steps to the blank wall, takes a sheet of paper, and begins to sketch. Trump settles into a chair in the corner and simply watches. For over an hour, he doesn't interrupt or offer suggestions, just watches as his son immerses himself in creation. What emerges isn't what he expected. It's a portrait, abstract but unmistakable, a figure with two distinct faces, one bold and commanding, facing the world, the other, quieter, more contemplative, etched in lines visible only in the shadows. When Baron finally steps back, Trump approaches slowly. That's you, Baron explains. But it's not just you, it's me too. Because I realized I've been carrying both versions of you, trying to decide which one I'm allowed to be. Trump studies the portrait, seeing the truth it reveals. I've spent my life building my reflection, he says quietly. But you just showed me the part of myself I never had the courage to look at. He places a hand on Baron's shoulder, a gesture that holds more than words can convey. And you're right. Both versions deserve to exist. Baron doesn't respond verbally. Instead, he steps forward and hugs his father, not the stiff, camera-ready embrace of public events, but something genuine and unforced. That night, after Baron goes to bed, Trump steps onto the Truman balcony alone. He pulls out his phone and dials a number that no longer connects, his father's old office line, disconnected years ago. He holds the phone to his ear, not expecting an answer but needing to speak the words aloud. I thought being strong meant being visible to everyone, he says softly into the night air. But maybe real strength is seeing someone else clearly. Maybe that's the legacy that matters. He ends the call and looks up at the stars, no cameras, no headlines, just a man reconciling with a truth long ignored. Below, his son's drawing dries, a quiet testament to what has finally been recognized. The next morning begins with an unexpected proposal. Trump knocks on Baron's door, not with instructions or a schedule, but with a question. Remember that trip you said you wanted to take? Baron looks up from his desk. Where to? Anywhere you want. Just the two of us. No staff, no press, no distractions. Baron's expression shifts from surprise to cautious hope. You're serious? Trump nods. Absolutely. A slow smile spreads across Baron's face. Then yes, let's do it. They choose the Colorado mountains, Baron's pick. A secluded cabin by a pristine lake. No security detail. No aides rushing after them with urgent papers to sign. They cook simple meals together, go on hikes, watch sunsets paint the peaks in gold and crimson. On the final evening, they sit by a crackling fire, wrapped in wool blankets under a canopy of stars so bright. This concludes our narrative journey. I trust you found this gripping saga of intrigue, cutting-edge innovation, and astonishing discoveries captivating. From where are you tuning in today? I'm curious to learn which corner of the globe this tale has touched. If this escapade held your interest, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for a steady stream of compelling, mind-expanding stories just like this one. Fresh material is posted frequently, ensuring you're always in the loop for the newest spellbinding adventures. Be sure to pass this video along to your loved ones and friends. It's a great way to share positivity and insight while expanding our circle of story enthusiasts. Your encouragement is invaluable. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to welcoming you back for the next tale.